What's up, guys? Chill Scrub here, and you already know what time it is. It's another video, and I want to talk about the recent release of Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown. And there has been a lot of misconceptions on social media such as Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. about which fighting game is harder or which fighting game takes more skill. And I want to break down my opinion on why I think which game is better. So in all honesty, I will have to say that Virtua Fighter is definitely the harder game. I've been waiting on Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown or Virtua Fighter 6 since about 2018. So let's go ahead and break down into the nitty gritty. Let's go ahead and get into it. The reason why I say that Virtua Fighter is the harder game and why a lot of players that are coming from Tekken will not survive on this game that long is because the game is very unforgiving. It is very strict. It is very rigid in the way you play the game. So for example, backdashes aren't safe. You can cancel a backdash with another attack or a sidestep, but in order to do that, you will have, and to make a backdash safe, you will have to cancel it into a sidestep, cancel the sidestep into a forward dash, and then cancel the forward dash into a guard. Another thing that makes this game a little bit hard is the rock paper scissors system that they kind of have, where throws are 10 frames, right? Throws beat guard, strikes beat throws, and guard beat strikes. So let's say if a move is 15 frames and the grab is 10 frames, the way the Tekken system works is the grab would win. It'll grab you out of whatever move you're doing because the move came out faster, right? So technically saying it kind of comes out as a hit, but the mechanics for Virtua Fighter 5 or Virtua Fighter in general are completely different. So no matter how slow the move is, because it is a strike, it's pretty much throw invincible. So there's that. The movement again is very different. There is no backdash canceling like you do have in Tekken. There's no Korean backdash. It's not as free flowing as Tekken is, and that's one of the knocks that a lot of people are going to have with the game, is the fact that you just can't sit there and backdash, or you just can't sit there and wave dash or anything like that. People say that it seems slow. No, the game at a higher level is extremely fast. Now, granted, I'm completely trash at the game. I'm just like everybody else. I'm new for right now. But let's talk about some Tekken. So, the things that shine out of Tekken is the fact that it's a free-flowing game. But with the recent iteration of Tekken 7, what kind of takes the credibility away from the game is the fact that there are plenty of comeback mechanics. The fact that you have rage arts, rage in general, rage drives, power crushes. You have so many ways to deal with certain moves that otherwise you'll get bodied by. Virtua Fighter 5, there's no such thing, so you have to really rely on your reactions, your actual defense, things of that nature. A lot of new players that's coming in right now, they are complaining about the dig jab spam or the 2P spam, which is it's +4 I believe on hit and -5 on block. So with that being said, like it's kind of crazy the amount of options you get with that. So it kind of shuts down a lot of the things, to shut down a lot of offense. So if you kind of start off with a high, it forces you to do mid. So another thing I like in Virtua Fighter 5, or why I say it's kind of hard, is the fact that there's no basic way to play a character, right? So like when you're playing Tekken 7, or Tekken in general, like you form your offense around the jab, the down forward, one to check. A lot of characters have the same kind of while standing for, things like that. And Virtua Fighter, that does not exist. So like I feel like in that game you actually have to be a special with your character. But this is not a knock on Tekken. Tekken has its own difficulty levels, but I feel like the execution barrier to actually maximize damage in Virtua Fighters is definitely a lot harder than Tekken. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but for some odd reason I just tend to play difficult characters. Tekken 7, I mean Kazuya, I dabble with Steve, King, characters like that. And Virtua Fighter, my sole interest is Akira, and Akira is definitely not one of the easiest characters to play. So on a beginner level, I feel like Tekken is actually harder to get into. I really feel like it. I feel like it's harder to understand because in Virtua Fighter, it's only 3 buttons. You have P, you have K, and you have G. Versus when you're playing Tekken, you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 left punch, 2 right punch, 3 left kick, 4 right kick. So, and on top of that, you have to get used to the way you have to sidestep. You sidestep certain moves a certain way. All that kind of stuff, hop kicks, frame data, but a lot of that stuff is the same when it comes to frame data and things like that. Another aspect of Virtua Fighter that makes it really unique and very different from Street Fighter, Tekken is the fact that it has guard crushes. It has a whole bunch of mechanics that'll throw an average Tekken player off, or a Tekken player in general off. If you never played a Virtua Fighter game, it will throw you off. You got guard breaks, I said guard crush, guard breaks, stagger stuns, all kinds of things. The juggling system is a lot different, so a lot of people that are just picking it up for the first time are going to have a lot of problems. They're going to have a hard time dealing with certain things. The strings in this game or in Tekken 7 are a lot looser than on Virtua Fighter 5. In Virtua Fighter 5, the stepping system compared to Tekken is very different. So when you step in Tekken, you can immediately cancel a step by pressing back. In Virtua Fighter 5, that does not exist. So let's say it's going back to what I said about it being rigid. So let's say you sidestep, right, and you sidestep at the wrong time. Not only do you get hit, it also counts as a counter. It has the similarity of Namco's or Bandai Namco's Soul Calibur 6, where if you step or if you backdash at the wrong time, it gets considered a run counter, but it's not called that in this game. It's just called a failed evade in Virtua Fighter 5. So again, it punishes you hard for stepping at the wrong time. And I notice when I play a lot, I see a lot of people doing the offensive move or sidestep, where you sidestep and you press P plus K plus G, and you get to their side if it's done correctly. But the problem is you can't block. So let's say if you do the offensive move at the wrong time, you get hit in the face. Versus with Tekken, you almost have a fail safe if you just sidestep and you see that they're going to attack and you see that your sidestep is off. You just press back. They do have a similarity when it comes down to realignment. So let's say again, if you sidestep on the wrong time in Tekken, the move that the person does will realign with you. Another thing I have to give Tekken that Virtua Fighter doesn't have: sidewalking is useless in Virtua Fighter. There is no point in sidestepping whatsoever. Sidestepping will get you killed. But in I said sidestepping in Tekken. Sidewalking in Tekken. Sidestepping in Virtua Fighter will get you killed. Sidestepping in Tekken is actually very valuable. So when you look at, for me, when I look at Virtua Fighter, it's very offensive heavy. Like I feel like Tekken, what gives Tekken the shine to me as far as difficulty is the spacing. That free-flowing spacing and the whiff punishment is a lot different than it is in Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter, as I said before, it's very dependent on your reactions and your adaptability to your opponent. I mean, that's a component in any fighting game, but it really highlights in Virtua Fighter 5 as opposed to Tekken 7. So again, these are reasons why I find Virtua Fighter extremely hard, especially for a person of my kind of playstyle. That is, my reactions suck. Believe it or not, my reactions suck. So, a lot of people will probably disagree with me and say because Virtua Fighter has limited buttons, like it's only K plus G. Like I said, 3 buttons. It's easier to play. It's really not. There's a lot more just frames that go into it. It's very up close and personal, things of that nature. As far as the throw system, I can dive into that real quick. As I said before, throws are 10 frames in Virtua Fighter. Throws in Tekken 7, depending on what character and what kind of command throw you do, they can be anywhere from, if you can do it perfectly, anywhere from 10 to 11 frames or 12. The problem with that, when you're playing Tekken 7, right, you can clearly see, if you're good enough, you can clearly see what kind of throw it's going to be. Rather, it's going to be a left throw, which you break with 1, a right throw, which you break with 2, or a 1+2 throw, which you just break with 1 and 2 at the same time simultaneously. So the problem with that in Virtua Fighter is not only it doesn't give you any kind of cue or notifier of what kind of throw it's going to be. It's a true mix-up, and you have to guess between a three-way mix-up between a left throw, or a front throw, a back throw, or a neutral throw, which makes it extremely difficult to deal with. Now, what minimizes it is that every character has a throw that does more damage or better Oki than others, so you can at least eliminate one option. But at the same time, you can't eliminate it all, and that's another problem. Well, I won't say problem, but another reason why it makes Virtua Fighter hard for me or hard for a lot of players is because you cannot block for too long. Like, one of my videos, I don't remember which one, but I always say the point of defense is to transition into offense. So you want to make your defense turn into offense. That is, it's doubly true for Virtua Fighter 5. You cannot sit here and block forever. Throws will eat you alive. And the problem, another thing with throws is you cannot just duck throws without consequence. So let's take it like this. If you do any move, right, and it leaves you in -4 on block, right, if you try to duck and he immediately does a throw, you're gonna get thrown. Because I think it takes about 4 or 5 frames. It takes 4 frames to actually get into a crouching animation, right? So for about 4 frames, you are still stuck in standing. So that's another thing that makes it that shines where it's a lot more difficult than Tekken. I'm not saying that Tekken is easy. I'm definitely not, because it isn't. It isn't. They all have their own levels of difficulty. But again, another thing I have to say about this game: a lot of people complain about the damage output or the sheer damage output in Tekken 7, and I thought it was bad too until I played Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter damage is absurd. Like, the amount of damage you get plus the Oki situations is ludicrous. So what can turn into 1 hit at a wall can turn into 80% easily. And this is a game without any kind of rage drive, any kind of rage art, or nothing like that. So no power crushes, anything like that. So if you do get hit with an 80% combo, you have to literally come back from scratch. Another thing I have to give Virtua Fighter is the crushing system, or crushing in general. What I mean by crushing are moves that pretty much moves that have built-in evasion, like that beats. Okay, let's say a person does a high. If a high crush is a move that beats a high, so it's an attack move that has crushing properties that'll crush a high or go under the high. I would say that is not as prominent as it is in Tekken 7. The crushing system in Tekken 7 is honestly OD. It's actually annoying. Like, it's like I said before, Virtua Fighter is very, very rigid. So like, let's highs are highs, mids are mids, and lows are lows. Some more technical things I can get into as far as Virtua Fighter is the fact that special mids, special lows, and special highs, they actually play a purpose, rather that you have in Tekken 7. You only have a special low and I think like a special mid. Special highs in this game, even if you were to do a high crushing move, it'll knock you right out of it. So let's say a person does a string and it ends like Wolf String, that ends in one of Wolf Strings is a 3-hit string. It ends in a special high, right? If you try to dick jab out of it, it's gonna knock you out of it, and he's gonna be plus. Or it's gonna count as like a guard. I was about to say guard crush again, or as a guard break. So that's another thing. It's just layers upon this game. Like, if you look at it at a surface level, you're like, oh, Virtua Fighter's easy. 3 buttons. Back dashes aren't safe. Forward dash counts are great. All that. So you'll think it's easy until you get into it. And again, special mids. All these things have their own special properties. Just like with special mids, if you was to try to do anything out of a special mid situation, if you tried to crush it, you will end up getting it'll stand you right back up. So those are other things you have to worry about. What I have to do give credit to Tekken as far as it's just its overall sense of letting you know what is what. Me personally, it makes the game kind of stale for me because I like to figure out things for myself. But Tekken 7 has a great idea of letting you know how things work for the most part, even though there's a lot of BS that goes on in that game. But time for me to get biased for a little bit. The fact that Virtua Fighter 5 came out originally in 06, 05, 06, the vanilla base version of Virtua Fighter 5. Then you had Showdown that came out in 2012, and now you have Ultimate Showdown, which we're playing in 2021. The fact that this game still holds a candle, and to me is actually better than Tekken 7, it's kind of sad. Now, I love the Tekken franchise, and I can't say I was the biggest fan of the Virtua Fighter franchise. I'm not going to sit there and be a fake fan and tell you all my life I've been playing Virtua Fighter 5. I'm a Virtua Fighter expert or anything like that. Like a lot of these phony people out here that's in the FGC talk about all my life I've been playing Virtua Fighter. No, you haven't. Stop the cap. You're a Tekken YouTuber. Be what you are. So, all in all, I definitely think that Virtua Fighter is definitely the top dog of the 3D fighting games as far as depth is concerned, as far as difficulty, and as far as just overall hardness. It's just a harder game for me, and it's not because I'm new or anything. When I was playing Tekken for the first time, I definitely had an easier time picking up the concepts. I would say learning the advanced movements in Tekken was like the hardest thing for me, but the overall basics of the game, or the fundamentals of the game, it wasn't that hard. Especially for a lot of people that are used to holding back to block. Like, let's say you play KOF, Street Fighter, games of that nature, Blaze Blue, games where holding back is, or Marvel vs. Capcom, games where holding back is like almost like it's the norm. So for you to have to consciously remind yourself to hold a guard button like a Mortal Kombat or a Soul Calibur, it's a lot different, and a lot of people are not. It's going to take some time to get used to that, and I think that's about it. I think I done said pretty much what I had to say. I think a lot of people that are hating on Virtua Fighter right now, they will love the game once they get past the initial dig jab spam, and pretty much people just spamming buttons, and get the basics of how to sidestep, when to sidestep, how to cancel sidestep, how to cancel dashes, when to appropriately attack, understand the frame data of the game, and just, you know, dive into the game instead of just, you know, trying to apply Tekken logic to Virtua Fighter, because that's the biggest problem with what I see with a lot of these new Virtua Fighter Ultimate Showdown players, is they're trying to apply Tekken logic to Virtua Fighter. And Virtua Fighter is a completely different game than Tekken, with completely different mechanics, and it's just overall different. So, like, with all that being said, I pretty much just said what I had to say. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys next time. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and peace.